to Two Dudes Talking Motorcycles. My name is Gleb, and you can follow me on Instagram at GlebLapham.
And my name is Mitch. Hello again. And you can follow me on Instagram at Meet City Beach.
And you can also follow the podcast on Instagram at tdtmotorcycles. And you can also send us emails if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, rider advice, rider stories, anything like that. Feel free to email us at tdtmotorcycles@gmail.com. And what is our topic today, Mitch?
Well, today we've had somebody email us a while back, and we failed to respond.
So this is going to be kind of it was a new rider looking for riding advice, basically, and we never really responded, so we thought it'd be kind of a cool...
Well, you typed up a draft, and it just...
That's true.
Yeah, we never sent. So sorry about that. But yeah, so we're going to just kind of go over our thoughts on some of her questions and kind of what she was looking at. So,
and we thought it'd just be kind of a cool idea too, because there's some specific questions or bikes that this person was asking about. So that'd be kind of cool to share and bring it up just in case someone else is also kind of in the same boat, also looking for, a new bike or just getting started or anything like that.
Yeah.
So,
and I feel like it's been a while since we've directly talked about new rider stuff.
That's true.
So
yeah.
We'll get into that. But first,
let's just get into it.
Oh, you want to get into
the
it?
News?
Yeah.
The news, right? I forgot about that.
But first, Triumph has teased a new edition of the Speed Twin series, I guess, models. Yeah. But it's gonna be the Speed Twin RS. It's gonna look like a Bonneville. So, but I believe they're going to be bumping up a few specs and just designs.
Yeah, we'll see. What does it say when the announcement is actually going to be?
They've announced. Well, it's just that Triumph. They first announced its first batch of returning 2025 models. This new Speed Twin 1200 is the only member in the Bonneville line or the modern classic lineup.
Interesting.
So,
for those of you that don't know, it's the Speed Twin. So I think a year or two ago, they renamed it. So it used to be the Street Twin and then the Speed Twin.
Mm-hmm.
Street Twin was like the 900cc Bonneville engine, 5-speed gearbox, a little bit lower powered, but still a great bike. I absolutely love that bike. And then they had the Speed Twin, which was like the 1200cc, kind of more sporty, souped up model, a lot more pep in it. Then they renamed or they changed the names of it to kind of more align with the rest of their bikes. Mm-hmm. So now they are the Speed Twin 900 and then the Speed Twin 1200. And at the same time, they also discontinued the Thruxton, and now with this kind of teaser for the Speed Twin RS, it's going to be people are speculating that it's going to be kind of like the replacement for the Thruxton. Kind of, I'm assuming it might have either similar, maybe a little bit more horsepower than the Speed Twin 1200, but it might have. My guess is it might have different ergonomics, maybe improved suspension. Or sportier suspension, maybe sportier, lighter wheels or something like that. But there's really no information to go on it. Triumph just released a little
teaser,
teaser, and the rest is me just talking out of my ass. And let's see if I'm right. I don't know.
But in the little video, it talks about this article from motorcycle.com. It says you can notice that with the front the forks, they're gold. They're fancy.
I think Showa, maybe Olin's.
They said it looks like they're saying we notice gold colored Marzocchi forks.
Oh, interesting.
So,
okay.
With a different triple tree clamp. So,
I'm assuming it's going to be adjustable. I'm assuming the rear shocks are also going to be adjustable because I think the Speed Twin has some Olin suspension in the back, doesn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Which is fully adjustable, so you can adjust it. I'm assuming this is going to be kind of in that same realm. I'm curious to see if they're going to keep the dual the dual gauges up top.
I know they kind of been.
It's kind of a very iconic look.
It really is, and a lot of their bikes are kind of not doing that now.
Yeah, a lot of them I feel like are moving towards that round kind of digital cluster, kind of like yours has, or like the Rocket has.
Yeah,
which it looks
they have
good.
They have a newer design on them now too. Like even the newer scramblers have a different design. I like mine better, but
I like that it's still round, but I really like the analog gauges that the Bonneville line has on most of their bikes, especially like the T120 and then the Speed Twin, where it just has the two round.
Yeah, they're just timeless.
Round gauges. They just look good, and they just feel like they belong on those bikes.
They're just timeless. Honestly, that's like the best thing I can really just say about them.
Even if it does replace, or even if they do go away with like the dual gauges on this, the Speed Twin 1200 is still going to be around, which does have the dual analog gauges, which is beautiful.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I guess there's been no like announcement date itself. So, So
we're kind of coming up on that season. If you've been listening to us for almost 2 years now.
Wow. Yeah.
Crazy. Usually around like fall, usually like October, November, December is when a lot of manufacturers start announcing new bikes and or new bikes or updated models of bikes and things like that. So I feel like this is coming up in time for that.
Yeah.
For that. And I feel like we'll probably see an announcement within the next maybe like month or two on what this bike is and the specs and all that.
Yeah.
So it'd be cool to keep an eye on it. And I feel like that's actually, kind of a good segue into our main topic, which you mentioned about, new riders and stuff, because now is the time of the year when new bikes are coming out. So if you are new or looking to get back into motorcycling or whatever, then you'll probably have a few extra models to choose at or look at if you're buying new, or if you're used. You might get a little bit of a discount on a used model, whether you're buying it or not just a used model, but if you could see good deals come up on last year's models, because a lot of times dealers would be in a hurry to get rid of those to buy new ones.
And my friend, she wants to get a bike probably spring. So, and I was telling her the same thing. So, coming into fall, winter, and then into spring, those are good times to get a bike because they're just not moving. Yeah.
They do get a little pricier in spring because that's when people tend, or you might have a little less wiggle room in spring because that's when people tend to buy. But like winter and fall especially, that's a good time to look at deals. And then especially after New Year's models are announced, previous year's models, I mean, we've seen like on Triumphs, for example, plenty of times there would be 0% interest or like 1.9% interest for like 36 months if you're planning on financing. Or if you're not, then you can get like the Triumph Cash, or a lot of bikes they'll offer like, oh, if you buy this bike, you'll get a free set of panniers
or some sort of gear,
or something like that. So if you're shopping, and to our listener, send an email.
You're close to a good time.
You're close to a good time. And she did mention that she's planning on doing this as like a Christmas gift for herself. So if hopefully you are listening to this, even though we haven't responded to your email in a while, that would be actually a really good time to start just kind of look, because winter is a slow time for motorcycling, depending on where you live. And this person's in Texas, so it might be a little bit different there. Yeah. But with those new models being announced, you might be looking at some better deals. So this person, she wants a bike to kind of start riding with her dad, and she wants to keep the bike under 10K, preferably around 7,000. How much was your first bike?
About that, I think, because I bought my first bike brand new. I was stupid and did that, but it's also really fun getting a new like your first motorcycle. It gets delivered to your door at 0 miles, and
which is pretty cool.
It was pretty sweet. I felt pretty cool. So
I spent around $6,000 on my first bike, and I did buy it used, but it only had 1,600 miles on it, which is basically new. Yeah. When I sold it, it had like 10,000 by the time I was done with it. Yeah. So I think 10K or preferably under 7K is definitely doable, and I think that's a very good price range to look at for your first bike. Some of the other things she said. So let's see. So
Well, like you're saying, I think she's in like a good price range with what she was hoping to accomplish.
So the main qualities that she's looking for is looking for a reliability, versatility, can handle any road condition with ease and do light off-roading if needed or desired, highway capability and creature comforts like heated grips, good lights, comfortable positioning, and something not too heavy, and USB charging ports, to name a few desired features. And so that's kind of when we start to get into more of like the kind of pushing it, or you're not going to find a lot of those features on the lower priced bikes generally, unless you're getting something significantly older.
Yeah.
Not like old, but I'm talking about maybe like instead of a 2020 model, you're probably looking at some maybe like 2018, 2017 model for that price. If you want those features.
Yeah. I mean, even my bike, I mean, it's outside. I paid more than what she's wanting to spend, on that, but like mine's a 2019. I think I could still sell it for maybe 8 or 9.
Probably.
Yeah. So they're out there.
They are out there.
I mean, but mine also has 20,000 miles on it now.
Yeah.
So.
But if you want something like lower miles, I think when looking at the first bike, there's a bit of compromise you probably have to make to before or in what you want, unless you're planning on going either older or spending more money, because things like heated grips and the USB USB charging ports and things like that, a lot of times you'll see them on more like premium models, but you can pick up, for example, like, a used, this is not a light bike, so I'm not recommending this or suggesting it, but like a used GS or something like that for, $8,000, it'll be an old one.
It'd be an old one,
but it'll probably have heated seats at least, and cruise control. Cruise control is the one that's, I feel like, was always tricky, because even the high-end bikes, not even a lot of them. All high-end bikes have that.
Yeah. And something I would say too, for someone who's looking to get their first bike, and this is just something that I've thought about, like wishing I had done differently, like before I got my new bike or my current bike, a lot of those things you can add on afterwards for cheaper.
That is true.
So you can get a more, I guess, quote unquote bare bones bike.
Yeah.
That's not, I don't really like that term for that, but you know what I mean? And then like, as you go, so you got your bike for your budget, you got your gear, and now you can just go out and spend the money. And if you have the know-how or someone to help you, you can install a USB port connected to your battery.
That's true.
You can put in some heated grips. I don't know how, but I'm sure
you can. Or alternatively, you can get heated gloves.
Yep.
Or like a heated jacket, which would, I mean, it's not as convenient as heated grips, but it is something that is like a little alternative to if you don't have heated grips, and if you do want them.
Yeah. So.
The only thing I feel like it's a little trickier to add is cruise control.
Yeah, that I have
cruise
no
control,
idea.
you do have to have a bike that is like ride by wire, because all of them are, and most modern bikes are, so you'll probably be good there. But you can't really like, at least I don't know of like an easy way to install on a button and kind of map the engine to kind of hold that speed. But they do sell essentially manual throttle locks that you just clamp onto your handlebars, onto your throttle, and you kind of lock it at a certain angle. So you can, it still lets you like relax the wrist a little bit, probably provide a lot of comfort on long highway rides, but it's not the same as like a full-on cruise control system. Yeah.
And here in her email too, she said like her dad knows how to work on bikes, and so he can show her and help her out with that. So
perfect. Yeah. If you are mechanically inclined and tech savvy, I'm pretty sure there's lots of ways you can figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, people do all sorts of crazy stuff with bikes, and I feel like most of them, especially like Japanese bikes, are pretty easy to work on, or there's at least a lot of opportunities to kind of slap stuff onto them. So you're definitely not holding out, or definitely not really missing out on anything. But if you don't want to deal with the hassle of like installing stuff, there's probably going to be a little bit of a compromise on either the price or the features
that you want to come standard on.
Yeah.
Come as a package, I guess. Yeah.
That there's going to be.
So
that compromise on the price and the features that's gonna have to be made, because some of those features are reserved for kind of more higher end bikes, mainly cruise control, like heated grips.
Yeah. So.
And then also something not too heavy, which is, that's kind of the other thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With how, I don't know if she mentioned, so she's in her 20s, she's 26. Yes, so I was looking if she mentioned like her height or anything like that too, because
that's true.
Because she was, so this, we've talked about like kind of what she was looking for from there. But she was looks like she wanted to get like an ADV type bike or like a road.
That's what it sounded like, either an ADV or maybe like a touring bike, but the light off-roading. That's where the ADV come in. So in my email that I never sent, so I apologize for that.
Yeah.
If you are listening to this episode,
Nicole, this episode's for you.
Yep.
Well, before you get to your recommendations, she did let us know she was considering the Husqvarna Svartpillen 401 and the KLR 650S.
So between those two, the Svartpillen is definitely more of like that. I don't even know how to say, kind of a cafe racer.
It's like a neo cafe, because I think Honda Titled has that term for like their some like their bikes, like a neo cafe.
So that's Husqvarna Svartpillen 401, which I think is a pretty dope looking bike, and honestly, I think that's a very good size of bike, because I think I sat on one. I sat on one of those Husqvarna bikes, either the Svartpillen or the Vitpillen that they have. But I think they're I would say they're pretty good kind of beginner bike, especially if you're concerned about like height and weight, because they're very low to the ground and they are pretty lightweight bikes.
Yeah.
However, I don't know if I would take them off-roading, nor am I sure about what kind of features they have in terms of like the creature comforts. I don't know if they have heated grips. I don't know if they have cruise control.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I think they are under 10 grand.
They are. I would add to, when I was first looking at bikes, or when I first was getting into them too, somebody on YouTube, they mentioned one of the, again, I think it is the Svartpillen, but it is kind of like a more, or one of the other Svarts or Vips, they can do like some like light off, like some dirt.
I mean, again, like any bike can
packed,
really do some light off-roading and stuff. It just kind of depends on what. My biggest concern would be with them is the ground clearance and the tires that they come with. So you probably need some aftermarket tires, because I'm pretty sure they are pretty street oriented. Yeah. And then another one, I'm not sure if the new ones have traction control or not, but if they do,
I think they do.
That's something that can get a little intrusive if you're riding off-road and you can't disable it or turn it off, because that is kind of, you'll notice a cut power. I notice it on my bike if I don't put it into off-road mode. It will significantly kind of cut the power to the back wheel and can cause it to lose momentum.
Yeah. So we just really don't know that much about the Svarts. So,
I've never ridden one. I've only looked at them, nor not much information. But
I like the way they look.
And I do hear like a lot of people do like them and enjoy them.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say it's quite an ADV bike. But that's kind of
like ADV light, I would maybe say. No, you wouldn't.
It's straight up street bike.
Yeah.
But then she also mentioned that she is considering any ADV bike, and particularly the Kawasaki KLR 650S, which I think is one of those kind of jack of all trades, master of none bikes. And a lot of people love them, and they're virtually indestructible. There's a whole video if you go to Fortnite, not Fortnite, if you go to Fortnite's YouTube channel, I think they have like a whole video where they actively tried to destroy a KLR motorcycle, and the thing won't die. And the KLR, I mean, they have the new one, which they kind of refresh and redid a little bit to kind of make it a little bit more comfortable, a little less vibey, revamp it a little bit. But there's so many used ones out on the market that you'll definitely be able to find one for $7 grand.
Oh, easily.
Or less. I don't know if they'll have heated grips or cruise control. You can probably find one with a USB port because I'm pretty sure there's somebody that installed one on there.
Yeah.
And while they're not the lightest bikes, they are very versatile because people will take these things off-road. They're decent off-road. They're decent on-road. Hell, you can get a whole package for like 10 grand with panniers.
Oh yeah, you can walk out of the store with everything you need for it, really.
So it's a crazy good deal. And because of how simple and I mean,
it's a thumper too.
So, it is a thumper. So you'll have less maintenance because it just has one cylinder.
Mm-hmm.
You'll probably have a little bit more vibration, but that's something you just get over on the bike.
Yeah.
And then there's so many parts and accessories available for this bike that you'll probably be able to accessorize it however you want.
Yeah.
Or to really fit your needs. So out of the ones that you mentioned, out of those two that you mentioned, I probably would recommend this KLR.
It sounds like what I'm picking up on, that she was like wanting to do with the bike. I would say like the KLR is obviously going to be the more capable one. It is tall. It is heavy.
Yeah.
So that's something you would have to go sit on it and, maybe demo it if you can.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's our friend Carl had one, a KLR for a little bit. That thing was chunky.
It is chunky. I think the newer ones are a little bit slimmer and lighter, but it is not I wouldn't say it's a light bike.
No.
And while it is a 650, so just if you feel like so smaller CC engines, if you feel the 650 would be too widely to handle, I think you'll be totally fine. Once you kind of, I would say this any bike, whether you're experienced rider or not, is to start off easily on any new bike. Because you don't know how it feels and how it handles yet. Yeah. But you'll easily grow into the 650.
Oh, easy. And like the KLR too, it's not a speed demon bike either.
No, so it's not a speed demon.
Yeah. I will say with Carl, though, our friend who had the KLR, he actually accidentally dropped it and it fell into to the side of his old truck. You'd think the bike would get damaged or something. It's a bike falling. Bike was fine. Car destroyed. He had punched like the handlebar didn't bend or anything or break anything. It just punched through the door. So it's like, and there's a joke I heard about these KLRs. It's like when you drop a KLR, you don't damage the bike, you damage the earth.
Yeah, it's like the Nokia phones of motorcycles.
So
So out of the recommendations that you said, I think the KLR would be a really good one, especially if you want long highway rides, because they're a bigger bike, which does mean they're heavier, but it also means they can be a little bit more comfortable. Yeah. I mean, a heavier bike is better in stronger winds. It's kind of better, like if giant semi passes you, won't feel it kind of sway back and forth as much.
Yep.
Those little things. And I feel like with the weight, if you are worried about dropping them, there's plenty of techniques that you can use to pick up a heavy bike.
And I'm actually going to walk back one of my other statements about that too, because she's talking about where she like wants something to do that kind of stuff with some ADV dual sport capabilities. You're going to drop it.
Oh, and so if you're taking it off road, you're going to drop it.
Yeah. So I guess it's not so much of just like it's too heavy for you. I wouldn't say that. It's just you need to be sure that you can lift it repeatedly.
Yep. And we saw, like when we did that off-road class, we saw Luis, one of the trainers, she lifted up a whole GS by herself, just using the proper, like the walk back technique.
Yeah, you can do whatever. Yeah. You can do anything you set your mind to.
She also does mention like any dual sport. So I will say, if you do want something really, really lightweight and more off-road oriented, you can go with the Honda CRF 300 Rally, which is the... I'm going to make sure I said that name right.
I got the right name.
Yeah.
Yeah, they... But yeah, no, I think that would be a good one. And along this line of thought or discussion we're going into, you're right. Okay, good. Yeah, no, that would be another good one. But I don't know how much they are.
I think they're only $6,000 or so. Let me look on Honda's website real quick.
Yeah.
So 6,200, or you can get the older CRF 250 Rally for, probably less than $5,000 used. While it is not a speed demon and will not get you too far too fast.
Yeah, this
bike is extremely reliable and is very capable. And if you're not familiar with Itchy Boots, she's pretty much ridden this bike
All over the world.
all over the world.
At least the entire continent of Africa. So.
Africa and America.
Oh, yeah, and America.
She rode it all the way from Colombia to Alaska.
Yeah.
And then rode around Africa with like 60,000 plus miles on it. And beyond regular maintenance or her like dropping it, and she's rides in extremely crazy conditions.
She's insane, really. Yeah. But
that bike will stay alive through pretty much anything.
Yeah.
But it is a dual sport, so it won't be as comfortable. It does have a narrower seat. Yeah. But if you do want to do more off-road oriented riding,
if I remember right, reading through her check, she would still like to do like some highway speeds. So maybe not, but maybe. It depends, like kind of what.
I think it's still worth checking out.
Yeah.
And most dual sports, they're not going to be crazy, like crazy good on the highway, anyways.
Right.
I mean, they might have enough power.
Yeah.
For some of them might have enough power, but the comfort won't be there.
Yeah.
They're generally have narrower seats, so you can move around better off road on them.
Yeah.
Maneuver them better off road, but there's ways you can mitigate that. You can get seat pads. You can get little comfort like sheepskins. You can get like gels and stuff to put on top of the seat, which I feel like can make up the difference, but it just won't be quite as comfortable on the highway or.
Yeah.
But I still think it's something to consider, something to look at.
Yeah.
And then if you have any other dual sport or anything you want to,
I really
throw out there,
can't think of. I mean, if she's looking at the never mind. I was gonna say the Tenere, but that's outside her price range. So
if she can find a used one,
actually, maybe the Tenere 700.
Yeah, I mean that's a great little compromise of a bike.
Yeah, honestly, I want one.
It won't have cruise control.
No,
but you can add heated grips or heated gloves to it.
Yeah,
but it is a very capable off-road / on-road touring bike.
Mm-hmm.
They are, I don't know how it is in Texas, but at least here they are very tricky to find.
Yeah.
Used.
Yeah.
And the other option was the KTM 690.
Yeah, those ones though are more expensive. Those ones are
used ones. You can find ones for $7 to $8,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at least here in Utah.
Yeah,
we've seen some for that. But the KTM 690 Rally or
Enduro.
690 Enduro, 690 Enduro. It's a kind of a...
Oh, the 690. Yeah. Okay, I was thinking of the other one, their bigger one.
No, the 690 Enduro is kind of one of those bikes that a lot of people consider kind of like to do it all. It's a good weight and good power to kind of get you everywhere. I know you said no Euro bikes, but...
Oh, yeah.
it's basically the same as Husqvarna.
And some of the bikes we have recommended, I guess we would need to kind of double check. But this is, for everybody listening, this is the things that this... potential rider or hopefully new rider will not consider is any Harley, any Italian bike. She will not consider Royal Enfield, generally speaking. She won't do any European bikes, and it's okay. You can be wrong. We don't have to be right about anything. About everything. So, but no cruisers, no baggers, and nothing over 500 pounds. And sport bikes are on thin ice.
I think the 650 might be a little bit more than 500
I think
pounds.
so, yeah. And I think the Tenere is. It's close to my bike weight, I believe.
No, I'm pretty sure the Tenere is at least in the 400s. I can look it up real quick.
Yeah. So, so those are some things that we would have to like kind of verify before we actually gave like an official recommendation, But
it's 452.
Oh, okay.
So that's the wet weight.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned this Tenere 700 because I think that is a really good bike to look at if you can find one used.
Yeah.
Brand new. I think brand new they're like $10K on the dot or like $11K.
But that's not your out the door price.
No. So, but if you can find a used one,
I think they're more like 15 or something now, I thought, or 12, maybe 12. But like you're saying, used.
Yeah. If you can find a used one, I bet you can find one for probably like 8 to 10K.
Yeah.
So save some money there. But I think that's a really good one to recommend.
Yep. So, and I know you typed up a draft. So we can kind of, I don't think I ever read your draft.
I don't remember when I read it because I was all over the place when I wrote it, I feel like.
Oh, you actually did recommend the 700, the Tenere 700.
Oh, perfect. Look at that. Pass glove coming in clutch.
Yeah. Do you still, in here you put on the Honda NX 500?
So
or the
yes,
CB 500X?
I will still recommend that because that was my first bike, and I bought it specifically, basically for what you're describing. Something that can handle going on-road, something that can handle going off-road, light off-road, and something that was relatively cheap and easy to maintain.
Yeah. So.
And I think that the Honda, the CB500X, and you can find one used for probably like $5,000 or $6,000. I brought mine for $6,000. That was only a year old.
Yeah.
Like you can definitely find one for that. And I think new ones might even have a USB port on them.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of cool.
That actually is pretty sweet.
Very reliable, very pretty lightweight. It's in the 400 range.
We've taken motorcycle trips when you were on your Honda.
Yeah, so. I've taken motorcycle trips. I have taken it off road, some pretty decent roads.
Yeah,
and it came in clutch. It's not as good as my Tiger, obviously, but that thing can hold its own. That thing can hold its own. And on new ones, I'm pretty sure you can disable ABS so you can get a little bit better off road. Stuff. So I think that's a really good. I think that's a really good starter bike in general.
I believe
for anyone that wants a good starter bike.
Yeah.
The CB500 is something I would always recommend. It's not the most exciting bike, nor is it the most pretty bike.
Well, even the new one, the NX, it's got some more modern updates to it.
It does have, yeah. So if you can find one of those, I think that's a very good bike to go with. But if you can't afford to go a little bit higher, the Tenere 700 is definitely something worth looking at, and also the KLR or the KTM 690 Enduro.
I'm curious what you. This is like kind of where like I'm thinking I recommend the 700 as well, the Tenere 700, but at the same time like where she's going to be a new rider, and those bikes are pretty peppy. They're big, they're 450 pounds, but they are also tall. And they're pretty peppy.
Yeah.
People do some insane stuff with them. So do you think that would be a good? I'm still trying to decide if I wouldn't say it's not a good first bike, but it's just something you would need to be aware of, I guess.
Yeah, so. I think so. And before we get further into the topic, if you are a motorcycle rider, whether you're new or experienced and you want to do a motorcycle tour, we have our friends over at Shogun Motorbike Adventures, and we kind of
they reached out to
them.
us.
They reached out to us and asked us if we wanted to do a little collaboration with them. So yeah, they are a motorbike touring company based out of Japan, and they do motorcycle tours in Japan. And this episode is basically brought to you by Shogun Motorbike Adventures, where you can ride, explore, and immerse in the best of Japan with a great selection of bikes, accommodations, expert guides, a support vehicle, cultural immersion, and more. And you can ride from Tokyo to Mount Fuji and beyond, discovering hidden gems along the way. And thanks to our partnership here, you can use the promo code 2dudes15 at shogunmotorbikeadventures.com to save 15% off your tour. Don't miss out. Book your tour. Book your spot on the tour today. So thank you for Shogun Motorbikes for sponsoring this episode and reaching out to us.
They've been awesome to work with so far, and man, that would be awesome to do a whole tour, like a guided tour through Japan. Yeah,
I definitely think so. So if you guys are interested, once again, shogunmotorbikeadventures.com, and you can use the code 2dudes15 to save 15% off if you happen to be visiting Japan and want to take a tour on a motorcycle. Yeah, sounds like a good use of a new bike to me. Yeah. Or renting one there. Yeah, even that. So. But anyways, back to bikes. Back to bikes. Back to the new bikes. Back to the CB500X and the NX 500. I think that is a great starter bike. I feel like it depends how much you get into it. I feel like I grew out of it pretty quick. Yeah, when I remember you on the highway too, especially when I had my Scrambler. And knowing Texas has very high speed limits. At least it's mostly flat, but it does have high speed limits. So it does struggle a little bit at very highway speeds. But I personally don't think of it as too big of a negative because I would much rather take the back roads or some twisties instead of
the highway.
Instead of riding on the highway constantly.
I just remember when we would have to be on the highway, you know, and like
it was a little rough.
God help you whenever we had like the slightest like a grade increase.
Yep. It's kind of hard. It's a little tricky to keep up the full 80 miles an hour on it. Going uphill,
but it can still
it can still do it. It can still.
It's just gonna be fighting for its life on the hill.
Yeah,
at that speed.
It's gonna be a little bit trickier.
Yeah,
but overall, like I think it's a phenomenal bike.
Yeah,
I think it's an absolutely great bike. Alternatively, I think there's some ones you can look at that are more kind of like sports tourish category, just more touring.
Yeah.
That will kind of give you a similar feel like that. I think one of the ones that came to mind is also the Honda, the NX 750 or the NC 750.
Oh yeah, the nerd bike.
What?
The one with the frunk.
Yeah, the one with the frunk, which I mean, very practical. That one's not going to be breaking any like looks or
you're not going to be winning any contests,
turning any heads and stuff. But it is a very practical and a very reliable bike, and it's got a little bit more power, so it'd probably be a little bit better on the highway.
Yeah,
especially at higher speeds.
I think that one you could really classify it as like the Honda Civic of bikes.
Oh, 100%.
Because it's very practical.
It is a bike. It is a bike.
It is one of the bikes ever made. Yeah. So,
but it's still, it's still a motorcycle, and I think for what you were describing, it would still work really well. Minus the off-roading, I think it's going to be a little bit too heavy, a little bit too low to the ground for anything more than like a regular dirt road.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still think that's something good too.
Yeah, I guess it's that handle. Yeah, the touring stuff is going to be really just depend on how much you want to get into the ADV stuff. You know, it's not like you would have to just get a touring bike if you don't want to do any off roading. You can still have an ADV.
Or you can get like maybe you'll decide to get a street bike, and then later on, if you want to do some off roading. If you get a cheaper street bike, you can also get a cheap dual sport
down the road
to kind of compensate for that. If you have the money and the space for that kind of purchase, I mean, that's another great way to go about it.
Yeah.
Because as much as we both love adventure bikes are a compromise. They are, they're not going to be the sportiest or the liveliest off-road or on-road. They're not going to be the lightest or easiest to maneuver off-road. But they can handle both those situations.
It's very much
that's what makes them adventurous.
It's very much a jack of all trades, but master of none.
Yeah.
So like you're just going to be kind of figuring out how to survive, whether it's on road or off road.
I wouldn't say survive, but it's more of like, you wouldn't be able to push an adventure bike.
Yeah.
As much as you would be like a sports tour or a sports bike or a naked on the highway.
Right.
And you won't be able to push it as much off road unless you're like a crazy psycho that we see on Instagram pulling, jumping, treating an Africa Twin as a trials bike or a KTM as a trials bike. But most people, adventure bikes are heavy, they're cumbersome, they're big, they're not the greatest off-road, but they can get you in some pretty cool places because they still can handle riding off-road.
Yeah, they can. I think surviving was the wrong word to use, but it's just like, it's not going to be the best at whatever you're going to do with it. It's not going to be the best that it could be that other bikes could do in your current situations. But again, like you said, you can go anywhere with them.
And even with adventure bikes, there's so many differences in between models. For example, like, Ducati Multistrada is still considered an adventure bike.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I would take that off-road.
Oh, hell no.
This is like a very light dirt road. Yeah. Even the Multistrada Rally, because it's a big, heavy bike.
Yeah.
But then you also got, you got this KTM 690 Enduro. It's still considered an adventure bike.
Yeah.
But it's very dirt oriented and won't be as comfortable on the highway.
Yeah.
So,
I think the Multistrada might be a bit out of the price range she gave us, but
definitely. Yeah. Unless you get like find a great deal on an older one, then I'm pretty sure you can get a lot of those heated grip and cruise control features on that.
Yeah. So,
but maintenance would be a pain.
Yeah, and this is like one thing I've had originally thought about when she brought up like the Svartpillen and you brought up the KTM 690 Enduro, because she's wondering about their reliability. we know somebody with a KTM engine.
Yeah, and he's had no issues so far with it.
He's got the cam thing.
Well, but he doesn't have an issue with it, but there has been like...
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Not really a recall, but...
I mean, Emerson loves his
it.
bike.
Yeah.
He loves that bike, I'm pretty sure.
But that's also like on his engine specifically, which is
true.
a higher engine than... Or it's a higher priced bike than what she was looking for. But like the 690 Enduro with it being a single cylinder, I think there's a lot more... a lot more leeway, a lot better reliability there, mainly because there's less things to break.
Yeah. And I haven't heard anything really bad about the Svartpillens. I know the Norden, the Husqvarna Norden has had some issues.
They use the same engine as the 890, the KTM.
Oh, so then there we go. Yeah.
So Husqvarna, they're owned by KTM.
Yeah.
So their bikes, their 401s, they basically, I'm pretty sure they have the same engine as like the KTM 390s. A lot of their kind of like lightweight beginner bikes. So that's kind of like the issue. And I think for motorcycle reliability in general, some of the things I would consider is dealer network or mechanic network in your area, and that's one of the big benefits I think of going with like a Japanese bike, because there's tons of mechanics that work on them compared to European bikes. And so Nicole, check out like the mechanic network and the dealer network in your area, just in case even if you don't plan on taking it for a dealer for repairs and doing it yourself, but for parts availability, if you need to order a part, get it there quickly, or go to a dealership and pick one up, you'll be able to do that a lot easier with a Japanese bike generally. And for any other brand that you might think of that comes up in your head, check to see what mechanics and what dealers sell and work on those bikes in case you do need to take it in for some kind of maintenance that's beyond the scope of you or your dad to be able to do.
And that's just something to consider. Like if you don't have a good dealer network, you can still make it work. For example, they could use our affiliate link to Revzilla.
It's true, to order some parts.
Yeah. So.
Which is down in the description below. So if you feel free to order some parts. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does give us a little bit of a kickback.
Yep.
And then kind of more on reliability. Basically, the simpler the bike, the more quote unquote reliable it gets.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like every bike is going to have some kind of reliability issue, whether it's engine or electronic and things like that. But generally, I feel like motorcycles are generally fairly reliable as long as you stay on top of your regular maintenance, like oil changes, chain maintenance, and things like that. They're pretty reliable. Even European bikes like Ducatis and Moto Guzzi's or AV.
It's just like with how she's mentioned here too. Is like she's a little. I think she's wants to turn away from the European bikes because of the cost to repair those bikes. Yeah, and those bikes are more expensive. They are
more expensive, but I wouldn't say they're not fragile.
They're not fragile. No.
I mean, we both had our bikes for 2. Yeah, you had yours for 4 years almost now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I had mine for 2 years. I haven't had any major issues with my bike.
Yeah, the only issues I've had is just common wear and tear. Yeah, like the fork seals. That's going to. I mean, fork seals are going to break. Yeah.
All I did on mine was a oil change, oil changes, and that's it. Yeah, that's when I replaced the air filter, and then just checked everything else. But I mean, I did have the valve check, valve clearance check, but
again, that's maintenance.
Yeah, so it's all kind of maintenance, and it was more expensive on that bike.
Yeah, well, and with mine, when it comes to like the cost of, or like when it comes to what you're mentioning, the simplicity versus more complex bikes. Like my bike has like a computer on it, so it has like the ECU, I think it was. That went out.
IMU,
sorry, the IMU. So like that went out. So I had lost.
Or an ECU too.
Either one, yeah. So some fancy electric part. But because that went out, this happened like a few weeks after I got this bike, because I was the second owner, as I've mentioned 100 times already. But so I had no ABS, no traction control, no off-road stuff, so I couldn't really switch modes. But Triumph took care of it.
Yeah.
And that was just one of those things. Never happened again.
Yep. So, and I haven't had any major issues with mine. Even our friend Emerson with the KTM, he's already put like 10,000 miles on it, 8,000 miles on it, and he's only had it since May. Yeah. He hasn't had any major issues with his. Nothing mechanical.
Yeah.
I feel like
Oh, I was gonna say that was my point of like, with the more complex you're getting into these bikes, like, there's just more opportunities for stuff to go wrong, like with his software issue, and stuff like that. So I think something like where she's mentioning, like with like the KLR, or how we've recommended like the Tenere, because the Tenere is super simple.
Oh yeah,
it's a very simple bike. So like if you're not into the tech and everything like that, you just want capable bikes, I think those are good options.
Yep. But note that they still have some electronics in them. But overall, in general, I feel like bikes are not as fragile as they appear. Even something like the Royal Enfield. I know it's off the table, but I will throw it out there anyways.
She did say generally speaking.
Generally speaking. I will throw it out there for the new...
the Himalayan.
The new Himalayan. It is not a light bike. It is kind of a heavy boy. But the new one, they got a bump up to 40 horsepower.
Wow.
But a lot of people really do enjoy riding those bikes.
Yeah.
One, they're dirt cheap. And they come with a lot of pretty decent features for that price. You can get a brand new one for $5,000.
Wow.
And it comes with like the Thumper engine. So it's super easy and basic engine to maintain and to take care of if something's wrong. And people do ride these things around the world. Once again, I'll mention Itchy Boots. Her first 2 bikes that she rode around the world were Himalayans. And that was the older model.
And I wouldn't ride one around the world. No.
But people did it. And she hasn't had like any significant or major issues with those bikes.
Well, and even in our off-road class, there was someone on a Himalayan. Yeah, and he did really good till the very end of the day.
Yeah, he dropped it going uphill.
Yeah, trying to leave.
Yep. So I know you said like, Royal Enfields are,
generally speaking off
the table, but I would at least, maybe take a look at it or read into it further to see if people had any issues with the new one. But you can get like a brand new, fully like pretty decent like starter ADV bike.
Yeah, and that's the only reason I wanted to bring. I think that's a good one to bring up, and I think the only reason we would bring that up is because it says generally speaking.
Yeah. So I wouldn't completely dismiss them, but I don't think Royal Enfield has as good of a fit and finish as you'll find from.
Well, definitely not from Honda. And Yamaha. So
those guys got it down. They got it figured out, and they're pretty good bikes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's kind of like all I got for the advice.
Yeah. So it'd be really funny if we hear from you, Nicole, and then when you've gotten a bike and it's not any of them that we've recommended. Just because it's been a minute since we
keep us posted. Keep us posted on what you do. Sorry this took so long. We both kind of after the trip. Oh, I got sick.
You got sick. I got
super
injured.
Busy. Yeah. So everything's just all of August has been kind of all over the place.
Yeah, we just have a lot of excuses ready to go.
Pretty much. And now I feel like we're actually back into our usual schedule.
Yeah.
Where we're recording at the start of the month instead of the middle of it.
Yeah.
So, and for any other listener, if our podcasts haven't been coming out the regular times that you're used to, sorry about that. But between the trips and me being sick and all other stuff, our schedules got kind of thrown out the window there for a minute, but now we're back on track and ready to go.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty much what I got all for this episode.
Yeah. So I think
I got stung by a wasp on my last ride.
In other news,
my buddy, our friend Emerson and I, we were riding last weekend, and you'd think, it would be like, oh, maybe I'm stopped or something. But no, the wasp made its way into my sleeve while I was mid-ride. And it stung me in the forearm, and then it stung me in the bicep, or I think I may have accidentally made it sting me in the bicep when I was trying to take the jacket off to see what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
And I will say it's not a pleasant experience because it's been itchy as fuck.
Yeah.
It's been so itchy, especially the bicep one. It's been just it keeps rubbing up against clothes. So it's just so itchy. But initially it just felt like something hit me in the arm. And I thought it was maybe like a shard of glass or something because it just felt like a needle or something sharp poked me. And then I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure that's a bug bite.
Yeah.
And it turns out it was a wasp bite. And that was my first time ever being stung by a wasp. Somehow I made it 30 years on this God green earth.
Oh, man.
Without being stung by a wasp. Which is weird because I'm outside a lot.
Yeah.
I go hiking and stuff, and I've never been stung by a wasp, which is crazy. So, that happened. Any updates with you? How's your knee?
I'm able to move, so I have a working knee, minimally working knee, I guess now. But
are you able to ride?
I think so. I think I'm ready to start riding. I'm going out of town for a week. Start tomorrow. But when I get back, I think I am gonna go try out to ride. So
perfect.
Still a little like pinches and pains here. So I'm still a little nervous about like putting the weight on my knee off the bike. But
how long has it been since you've ridden it now?
I rode it the day before I injured my knee.
And that was like the day after we got back from our trip, wasn't it?
Like 2 days, yeah. Yeah.
So it's been like over a month.
Yeah, it has.
Ooh, that sucks. So, that's a bummer.
If I've seemed low energy or impatient, that's why. So,
that would do it. That would do it.
Riding is very good for your mental health.
Yes, very true. Well, I'm glad your knee is feeling better, and hopefully we can all go. All right. I mean, it's starting to cool off a little bit here in Utah, which is very nice because now it's in the 80s instead of 90s.
Yeah.
And it's also feeling a little bit.
It's just a little bit feeling better. So good, honestly.
Yeah. But we also are getting to fall, so we gotta squeeze a few more rides in before it gets cold.
We're gonna.
Too cold. But we got at least 2 months until it gets too cold.
Yeah. Yeah. So
is that it?
I think so. We did get another email since we've been bad about the emails lately. Don, thanks for your email. That Don here has a older, an 87.
Oh, I didn't see this.
Oh yeah,
go for it.
Yeah, he's got a 87 Honda Goldwing that he has had to put some work into. But he said it was his cheap purchase. That was what we talked about last time. You know, so what did he do to it? It's.
I like how he even said here.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I feel like this actually, ties in with the episode really well because he said, my old 1987 Honda Goldwing was a cheap purchase, parts cheap, except tires.
Yeah.
Which is something we talked about last time.
We complained a lot about last time. So, but yeah, he bought it. It looked like it just kind of sat and collected dust for a while. But he has, I keep losing, I find it, then I lose it. So far he's rebuilt the front master brake, or the front brake master cylinder, the clutch master cylinder, and the slave cylinder. I don't know what that is, but yeah, dang, that's a lot of work though. Yeah. So, rebuilt the front forks, replaced seals in the rear, shaft drive, no chain. Good for, that's awesome. Yeah. So man, bike just sits for like 10 years and it's ready to go. Or at least the drive shaft is ready to go. So, switch to the Mastad windshield. Yeah, so he's done a lot of work on this thing.
That's pretty awesome.
And honestly, for an 87...
That bike looks gorgeous. I don't know if you're watching this on YouTube. Look at that.
Yeah,
Look at that. That is a beautiful looking bike.
Yeah.
And
yeah, so honestly, Don, great work. Congrats, great work, too.
Thanks for the email. I haven't seen that one.
And I just wanted to say too, like, I don't really have anything else if you do. I just wanted to say that if you guys enjoyed this episode and if you want us to kind of talk about your bikes or your considerations for bikes, send us an email and we might make it into another future episode.
Yeah, we love hearing from you guys. Yeah. If you have topic suggestions or want us to tell, like maybe you have a story to share or something like that and want us to talk about on the podcast, feel free to send us anything like that as well. So
yep.
I think that's it.
Yeah. And treat yourselves to a trip to Japan.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Take care.